All right, so today we're diving deep into this UK Prime Minister's speech on AI. What's the big picture?
Well, the UK is setting some pretty ambitious goals. They want to become a global AI superpower.
Not just talking about it either. They've got some concrete plans.
It's really interesting how they start this off, They could have just jumped right into the technical stuff.
Right.
But instead,
Yeah.
they lead with this human story about Deb, a prison officer whose life was literally saved by AI-assisted stroke treatment.
It's a powerful story. They even describe how the AI helped pinpoint a blood clot, giving doctors precious time to remove it.
Yeah. Talk about a real-world example.
Exactly. AI isn't just some abstract concept. It's already having a tangible impact, even in unexpected places like prisons.
It definitely sets the tone for the rest of the speech,
Right.
which is all about the UK's ambition to be at the forefront of this AI revolution.
So it's not just about using AI. It's about leading the way, driving innovation, creating jobs, and really shaping the future of AI with what they call UK values.
Absolutely, and they're backing it up with some serious investment, too. The Prime Minister mentions billions of pounds being poured into the UK's AI sector.
Okay, so real money.
Yeah. Companies like Kyndryl, Vantage Data Centers, Blackstone, they're all setting up shop in the UK, creating jobs from data centers in the Northeast to tech hubs in the Northwest.
That's impressive. But it sounds like it goes beyond just funding, right?
Definitely. They're setting up these AI growth zones, almost like dedicated areas designed to attract talent and investment.
I see. Kind of like a Silicon Valley, but specifically for AI.
Exactly.
I like that. But what about the fuel for that growth, the data?
Well, they're talking about boosting public sector compute power by a factor of 20.
Whoa.
The Prime Minister even compares it to swapping a Ford Cortina for a Formula One car.
Okay. I can definitely visualize that. But what does that mean in practical terms for AI development?
Well, imagine a researcher trying to train a complex AI model with its increased compute power. They could potentially do that much faster and on a larger scale. Think about it. It could speed up the development of all sorts of AI applications, from healthcare to climate modeling.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It really sounds like they're setting the stage for some major breakthroughs. But with all this talk about data and compute power, I have to ask about the NHS.
Ah, yes. The elephant in the room.
Right.
The Prime Minister sees the NHS's vast data resources as a goldmine for AI advancement, particularly for medical breakthroughs.
Sure.
But they also acknowledge the concerns about privacy and control.
Makes sense.
This is something they're going to have to handle carefully.
Definitely a tightrope walk. You've got the potential for amazing advancements, but also the risk of really upsetting people if they feel like their data is being misused.
Exactly. And that leads us to the UK's approach to regulation, which they describe as pro-growth and pro-innovation.
Okay. So what does that look like in practice? Are they just letting things run wild?
Not exactly. They're really emphasizing testing and understanding AI before implementing strict regulations.
So a more cautious and deliberate approach. Yeah. But it also raises some questions.
Of course.
Like what specifically?
Well, how do you even test something as complex as AI?
Right.
And what happens if something goes wrong before regulations are in place?
Yeah.
It's definitely a calculated risk.
So a balancing act between encouraging innovation and making sure things don't go off the rails.
Exactly. The UK's betting that this approach will give them a competitive edge in the global AI race. But only time will tell if it pays off.
It's going to be fascinating to watch how this unfolds.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We're looking at the UK's bold AI strategy.
Okay, so we've gotten a taste of the UK's vision for AI. They're not holding back. They're throwing resources, attention, even a bit of swagger into this.
Yeah. It's really fascinating to see how they're turning that vision into action. They're not just talking about it. They're building the infrastructure, attracting talent, setting the stage for a true AI revolution.
Let's talk about those AI growth zones you mentioned earlier. They sound really interesting, but I'm still a bit fuzzy on the details.
Okay.
What exactly are they?
Well, imagine these hubs of innovation strategically placed around the UK. Think Silicon Valley. But specifically tailored for AI companies and research.
Oh, I see.
These zones are designed to attract the brightest minds, foster collaboration, and accelerate the development of cutting-edge AI technologies.
So they're creating these hotspots where AI can really take off.
Oh,
What are some examples of these zones?
The Prime Minister specifically mentioned Culham in Oxfordshire. It's not starting from scratch, though. They're leveraging existing research facilities and infrastructure, essentially transforming them into AI powerhouses.
That's smart, building on what they already have. But any tech hub, Especially one focused on AI, needs a constant flow of data, right?
You're absolutely right. And that's where the National Data Library comes in. Think of it as this vast, centralized repository of data from various sources, including potentially the NHS.
Yes, that NHS data. It's clearly valuable, but also very sensitive.
Definitely.
How are they planning to balance the potential for innovation with the need to protect privacy?
It's a delicate balancing act, and the Prime Minister emphasized the importance of safeguards and controls. The details are still a bit vague, but they're clearly aware of the concerns.
Okay.
And they're working on mechanisms to ensure responsible access and use of this data.
Okay, so they're building these growth zones, creating a national data library. It sounds like they're really laying the groundwork. But what about the raw computing power that AI demands?
That's where that impressive 20-fold increase in public sector compute power comes in. Remember that Ford Cortina to Formula One analogy?
Oh, yeah.
That's essentially what they're doing for the UK's AI infrastructure.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture. But with all this focus on infrastructure and data, what are the human element? You need skilled people to develop, manage, and actually use this technology, right?
Absolutely. And the UK is not neglecting that crucial aspect. They're introducing initiatives to train tens of thousands of STEM graduates and apprentices, giving them the skills needed to thrive in this AI-driven world.
So they're building the talent pipeline from within. But in a global field like AI, I imagine attracting international expertise is also important.
You're spot on, and they're addressing that too. The Prime Minister mentioned a high-potential visa route, specifically designed to attract top-tier AI talent from around the globe.
So they're casting a wide net, both domestically and internationally. It sounds like a comprehensive approach to talent development.
It's about creating a robust ecosystem where skilled individuals, cutting-edge research, and readily available data all converge to drive AI innovation forward.
Okay, so we've covered the infrastructure, the data, the talent. It's quite a setup. But we can't forget about regulation. Remember, the Prime Minister emphasized a pro-growth, pro-innovation approach. What does that mean when it comes to AI?
It means they're trying to create an environment where AI can flourish without being stifled by overly restrictive regulations.
Okay, I get that. But how do you strike that balance between fostering innovation and preventing potential harms? AI is powerful. It's easy to imagine things going wrong.
That's the challenge, isn't it? And the UK is taking a somewhat unique approach. They're emphasizing a test first, regulate later philosophy.
So instead of trying to predict every possible outcome and regulate beforehand, they're opting for a more adaptive approach.
Exactly. They believe that by encouraging experimentation and understanding how AI actually works in practice, they'll be better positioned to develop effective regulations down the line.
It's a bit of a gamble, but I can see the logic behind it. They're saying, let's see what AI can do before we start putting up too many fences.
Precisely. They want to be at the forefront of AI development, and they believe this approach will give them a competitive edge.
But there are risks associated with this approach, right? What if something goes wrong before they have a chance to implement regulations?
It's a valid concern, and one that critics of this approach often bring up. There's a risk of unintended consequences, of AI being used in ways that we hadn't anticipated.
So it's a calculated risk. They're weighing the potential benefits of rapid AI development against the potential risks of moving too fast.
Exactly. It's a high-stakes game, and only time will tell if the UK's gamble pays off.
It's certainly exciting to see a country embracing this technology with such ambition and drive. But it's also a reminder that navigating the world of AI requires careful consideration, a willingness to adapt, and a healthy dose of caution.
I couldn't agree more. The UK's approach is bold, and it'll be fascinating to see how it unfolds in the years to come.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the UK's AI strategy. We've covered their goals, the steps they're taking, and even some of the risks.
Yeah. Now it's time to zoom out a bit and think about the bigger picture. What does all this mean for society as a whole?
Right. How will this AI revolution reshape how we live and work?
Exactly.
Those are some pretty big questions.
They are.
Honestly, it can be a bit daunting to even think about.
I agree.
Where do we even begin to unpack something this massive?
Well, I think a good place to start is with jobs. I mean, if machines can do more and more of the work, what happens to the workforce?
Right. That's the big fear. Will robots steal all our jobs?
It's a valid concern, and it's something the Prime Minister actually addresses in the speech. They emphasize reskilling and creating new opportunities, basically preparing the workforce for the jobs of the future.
Okay. But is it really that simple? AI is evolving so fast. Can we even predict what those future jobs will look like, let alone train people for them?
It's definitely a challenge. We might need to totally rethink our approach to education and job training. Focusing on adaptability, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, the kind of things that can be applied across different fields.
I see. So less about specific technical skills
Yeah.
and more about having a mindset that can adapt to change
Exactly.
whatever AI throws our way.
It's about empowering people to be lifelong learners, constantly evolving alongside the technology.
Okay, that makes sense. But even if we figure out the job market, there are other societal impacts to consider. AI has the potential to change so much about our lives, and not all of it might be good.
That's true. We need to be very intentional about how we integrate AI into our lives. We need to make sure it's serving humanity, using its power for good, and mitigating the potential risks.
Right, so it's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we use it, the values we build into it, and the safeguards we put in place.
Exactly. The future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we shape together through our choices, policies, and our discussions.
So we're all in this together. It's not just up to the experts of the government.
That's right. We need diverse perspectives, open conversations, and a willingness to learn and adapt as AI continues to change.
Well, listeners, that wraps up our deep dive into the UK's AI strategy. We explored their goals, their plans, and the wider impact on society. It's clear the UK is taking a big leap into the future, and the world is watching.
As AI keeps advancing, it's crucial that we all stay informed and engaged. The UK story is part of a larger story. It's about all of us.
So keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep those deep dives going.
Thanks for joining us.